What if your body only speaks one language? And that language is safety, not discipline, not perfection, not willpower, safety. There's a proverb that says, perfect love casts out fear. And I've always found that interesting because fear contracts and love expands. Your body does the same thing. When it senses fear, it contracts. When it senses safety, it can regulate. If healing has felt unpredictable for you, this may actually explain everything. I'm Michelle, and this is where we explore the intelligence beneath your symptoms, from subconscious imprints to emotional memory, so you can stop fighting your body, start understanding it, and allow healing to unfold. Your body does not care about your goals. It truly just cares about your survival. You can want to lose weight. You can want to regulate your cycle. You can want more energy. You can want to conceive. But if your nervous system senses threat, even a subtle emotional threat, it's going to prioritize your protection over healing. And that's not weakness. That is biology. This is how the body works. There's an ancient proverb, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. The body remembers what the mind tries to move past. And I've seen this in clients over and over. One woman I worked with had experienced loss. Her cycle became irregular afterwards. And on paper, nothing was really totally wrong. Her lab seemed okay, but her system was holding on to this fear. Not consciously, but actually subconsciously. And once we were able to increase the safety without force, her body began to regulate again. And not because we overrode it, because we actually stopped what the body was feeling threatened by. So think about what your subconscious controls: your heartbeat, your digestion, your hormones, repair, immune signaling. You're not consciously running those systems. You don't think about it. They respond automatically to perceived safety. If a deer jumps in front of your car, your body's going to react before you could even really think about it or process it. That is pure biological survival. Now imagine subtle versions of that happening internally. Unresolved grief from a loss that you've experienced in your life. Chronic pressure, feeling like you have to perform, feeling like you have to keep up. Fear of losing someone, fear of losing a relationship, fear of losing a pet. Conflict that you've never processed. Anything, really, even things you don't remember. Your body can interpret that as stay alert. Don't allow this to happen. Create this symptom. And when the system is in that alert mode, healing doesn't become the priority, right? So there's a verse that says, a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Ancient wisdom really understood this long before neuroscience has even named it. And so when this internal state is burdened, your biology starts to shift. And we actually see this in neuroscience and stress physiology. Research in psychoneuroimmunology shows that perceived stress alters your immune signaling, it can alter inflammatory cytokines, and it can create hormonal imbalance. And when the nervous system stays in threat mode, cortisol rhythms can shift, your thyroid conversion can shift, reproductive signaling can downregulate, right? And this is not because the body is failing, the body's protecting you. It's starting to reallocate resources to make sure you're safe. So the autonomic nervous system has two primary modes: protection and repair, right? You cannot be deeply in both at the same time. So if healing has felt stalled, it's not, most likely, it's not a strategy problem, right? There's so much good information out there now about what you can do to help your body heal. But if it's not working, then it might be a safety problem. There was a season in my own life where uncertainty created a subtle internal alarm. Physically, I was experiencing symptoms that really didn't make sense at all. I was getting muscle weakness, burning sensations in my body, in my back, up my arms and legs, right? And brain fog, sort of brain fog, this feeling like cloudiness, sort of. And I didn't know what was happening. And what made that worse was that I was feeding the fear around the unknown. What is this? What's happening? Why is this happening? Is this going to be something terrible? Am I having an onset of a disease? Right? So I started to realize something very powerful through that fear. And it was that I couldn't control everything, but I could control how much fear I was allowing to dominate my system. So I began intentionally increasing safety, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And my body began responding differently. Right? Not overnight. There were moments, there were times where it was very difficult to stay in that headspace. And it didn't mean that I didn't allow fear at times to break through, but I kept bringing myself back, right? And if this didn't happen overnight, right? But the symptoms improved with the right mindset and the right support. And what changed first wasn't the lab values. It was actually my internal posture, my internal thoughts. I was able to breathe a little easier. I wasn't like super aware, hyper aware of symptoms, right? That decreased. And my nervous system really stopped scanning constantly for what was going to go wrong. And healing really followed that shift in safety, right? Not the other way around. And so that's just distinction really matters when you're on a healing journey. So this is why forcing the body often backfires. When we're forcing, we're creating more restriction, more tracking, more intensity, more pressure. And pressure does not equal safety. It's like trying to convince a scared child to calm down by shouting, right? The more you're forcing, the more resistance, the more fear. So your body releases when it feels safe enough to release, not when it's commanded to. Scripture also speaks about a root that must be addressed before it causes trouble. And think about this. Roots don't respond to yelling. It's like trying to fall asleep by screaming at yourself, I need to fall asleep. The more you try to force it, the more awake you become. Sleep only comes when the body feels safe enough to let go. And healing works in the same way, right? Or imagine holding a beach ball underwater, right? You're pushing it down, right? You could keep pushing it down. You could probably get it under the water, but the second you release, right, it's going to shoot back up. And so you're forcing it, and that force is suppression, right? But if we allow safety, it can release. So you're most likely asking, what creates safety? Well, clarity, right? Clarity in why these symptoms are showing up. Permission for your body, for your subconscious mind to release and let go and allow the processing of these scenarios or situations that have led to these symptoms being surfaced in your body. Processing grief, processing trauma, things that you've gone through, relationships you've lost, people who have passed away. All those things can decrease the amount of safety in your body, right? Also having the right amount of support around you. Who do you have around you? Who's supporting you? Do you have the right goals in mind? right? And then really ultimately, it's understanding what the body is protecting. If you do not understand what the body is protecting, healing cannot happen. The symptoms might go away with all the force and effort that you're doing, but you'll find that those things will come back, right? And so safety is not really passive. It's not a passive process. You do have to be conscious of it. You have to create it. But the great news is that when that safety increases, the body can shift out of that protection mode. And then that's when things happen. Symptoms go away. Cycles regulate. You conceive. Energy returns. Headaches resolve, right? Physical symptoms in the body go away. Burning pains in my case. Muscle weakness in my case, right? Not magically. This isn't magic, right? But biologically. Because your system no longer believes it has to brace. So I worked with a woman who had experienced 2 miscarriages before we began working together. It was a really, really, sad, difficult situation. And on the surface, right, we could have chased hormones. We could have focused on only labs. We could have tried to optimize numbers, right? And she was doing some of this already and had done some of this already, but also was working with, her doctors on this. But beneath that, right, beneath those surface things, her body was holding fear. Her uterus was holding on to fear. Her ovaries holding on to fear of loss, right? Not consciously, right? Not consciously. She wasn't consciously like, I don't want to have another baby, or I don't want to get pregnant again because I don't want to lose my baby. That wasn't what she was thinking. She said, in her mind, she was desperately wanting to conceive and have a healthy pregnancy, right? But this fear that was being held was subconscious. And her uterus was storing this protective imprint around loss, right? Uterus in the subconscious imprint is saying, no, we've already done this twice before. And we've lost. We've lost things that we desperately love, people that we desperately love, right? So from the body's perspective, from the uterus's perspective, it wasn't malfunctioning, it's protecting. We don't want that loss again. We don't want to lose again. It was difficult. It was painful. It was not good. It was not safe, right? So the body and the uterus were protecting her from experiencing that pain again. So we didn't force, right? We didn't override. We increased the safety in her body. We helped her body process the grief that was being held, right? Some of it was conscious, right? Sometimes you go through waves of grief, even in any type of loss, right? In moments that you wouldn't expect, right? But for her, we helped to process that grief that was being held subconsciously, and we reduce that internal alarm. So we work with that subconscious pattern to help the uterus release, to help the body release. We address that imprint at the level that it was encoded through nervous system regulation, through emotional processing, through increasing safety in the body, by helping the nervous system disconnect from the subconscious mind and allow the healing to come in, right? And when that safety increases, her body was no longer needing to brace around creation, right? So that's not a mystical thing. It's actually adaptive physiology, recalibrating our biology, right? And when safety is increased, and in her case, her body shifted and she conceived again. And today she has her rainbow baby plus another, right? So that's not magic. That's what happens when that protection no longer feels necessary to the organs, the systems, the body, to the subconscious mind, right? This is the foundation of the work that I do. We don't chase symptoms. We increase safety and we identify what the body believes it must hold, right? Decoding that first is the key to everything. Decoding what the body, what the subconscious mind believes it must hold, believes it's protecting you from, right? That is the key. That's the first step. And so we help it feel safe enough to release after that. And when safety rises, regulation flows, healing comes in, and we can reach that goal and we can let the symptoms dissolve. Right? And it happens calmly, a lot of times subtly, sometimes steadily, sometimes naturally, sometimes instantly. It just depends on the scenario, the person, the situation. Okay? So if your healing has felt inconsistent, I want you to ask yourself this, right? Gently ask yourself this. Does my body feel safe? Okay? And you might consciously say yes. There may be a subconscious part that's saying no. It's not always obvious, right? So in practice, your body really only speaks one language. And the problem with this is that most of us were never taught how to listen for it. We're taught to override it, to bypass it, to discipline out of it, to push harder, to fix more, to hustle, right? But your body has never been the enemy. It's always the protector. So you're trying to hustle yourself out of this protection that the body is like, no. And the body keeps holding on and the subconscious keeps holding on, right? But when you shift from fighting your body to actually partnering with it, to understanding it, to listening, right? Everything changes. And when it finally feels safe, it does what it's designed to do. It heals, right? There's this old saying, what we resist persists. What we resist persists. What does that mean? It means what we put our focus on, and we're like, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this symptom, I don't want this symptom, I don't want this, I don't want this, right? We're focusing on it. It's going to continue to persist. It's going to continue to show up. It's going to be in our life. Okay? But what we understand, what we can then go, oh, this is showing up because XYZ, right? The uterus is holding on to grief. The uterus is not releasing this loss. What we understand, we can release. So if this conversation deepens something in you, subscribe. This channel is where we're going to continue unpacking how healing truly works, layer by layer, root by root, without force, right? And today, what I want you to do, just today, just notice where you've been trying to control. Just notice what you've been trying to resist, right? And instead ask, what would safety change? What is this symptom telling me? What is this situation trying to bring into my awareness? And that's it.